But it comes a time when, so yeah.
Ain't that something? Well, listen, I want to. We're live. We're officially live now. I want to first rise and give praise to Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I'd like to give honors to the last prophet in these days and times, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Savior of humanity. Believe it or not. I'd like to give honors to the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'd like to give honors to all past and present leadership, national, state, and local of the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated. I'd like to give honors to everyone that's watching this show. I'd like to give a special honor to my guests. My name is Brother S. Anail Bey, and this is Life of a Divine Minister. That's the name of the show. And so this is a conversation with Grand Sheiks and Divine Ministers of the Moorish Science Temple of America, talking about the issues, ups and downs, matters regarding building and maintaining a spiritual community and why that's important, especially in this day and time, and especially for our people. So we have Grand Sheik of Baltimore, Maryland, Brother L. Stewart Bey, and the Grand Sheik of Temple Number 11, Memphis, Tennessee Study Group, Brother R. Webb Bey. Islam.
Islam.
All right, so let's start like this, right? With brief introductions. When let's start with who we gonna start with? We'll start with Brother Webb Bey. Brief introduction. What you do professionally, and when you came into the movement.
Sure. I'll start. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll start, but as a part of proper decorum.
Yes, sir.
I have to ask the elders if it's okay for me to start first. And the elders, I don't know who's more elder, Brother Stewart Bey, Brother Anail Bey. Brother Anail got to look great here too. But I have to ask the elders if it's okay for me to start first as part of proper tradition. Is it okay if I go first?
Mo, that's up to the brother. But I can assure you, I'm the elder. Trust me.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay, Brother Stewart Bey.
Yeah, fine with you, brother. We want to hear from you. Go ahead, Mo.
It's fine. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Allah is the master of the day of judgment, and it's Allah's aid that we seek. And we give honors to his prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Give honors to the forerunner, Marcus Garvey. Give honors to my ancestors, and give honors to the ancestors who continue to guide us. So I give honors to each and every one of you. I give honors to the leadership of the Moorish Science of America, Islam. Very briefly, my name is Brother R. Webb Bey. I came into the Moorish Science of America in 2012. Officially. That's when I took out my nationality card in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at Temple Number 11 at that time. I have been on sort of an Islamic path since about 2003, and so I learned of Prophet Muhammad and began to read the Quran of Mecca in 2003, 2002, around that time period, and took a Shahada in 2000 or declared Shahada in 2003 or 4 in Little Rock, Arkansas. Came to the Prophet later on, Prophet Noble Drew Ali later on, and that was, for various reasons I came there. I'm an educator. I work at a building, or not a building anymore. We are online just as much as we are in a mortar building, but a place called Academy Charter Schools, which was started in 2009 in Memphis, Tennessee, for the sole purpose of working with Asiatic children to ensure that they had access to college. And so we've been doing that work since 2009. It's now 2020. So I've been there for 11 years in multiple capacities. I've been a dean of students. I've been a principal. I've been over principals. I'm doing HR and talent work now. But the reality is, my goal and my work at Freedom Prep is just to do whatever is necessary to assist so that we can continue doing the work that we're doing for our people in Memphis, Tennessee. It's lucky that they have chosen us. Let me say that. We're not a savior group. The people save themselves. We just try and do whatever we possibly can to assist them and give them the best possible education that they deserve and that they've been stripped from for a very long time. And so that's a little bit about what I do and who I am.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Go ahead, Brother Stewart Bey.
Islam first rising, giving praise to Allah, the great and almighty creator, the one who is incomprehensible, but
Yes,
is
sir.
the most merciful. Allah's most enduring quality to me is his mercy. For the Holy Quran of Mecca reminds us there are two types of mercy: the mercy you ask for and the mercy you get. See, we often put ourselves in situations where we say, "Oh Allah, please get me out of this predicament I'm in." And we ask for that mercy. And then we try to make a pact with Allah that we know is built on a lie. Because the first thing we say is, Allah, if you help me now, I will what? Never do it again. That's the mercy we ask for, but we don't think about the mercy we get. We get mercy from Allah. Every time he allows the corporean to get up, he put the etheric back into it to rise up out of what we call sleep, but we know just to be a deep rest. So I give praise to Allah for that.
Yes, sir.
I give honor to all the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, giving the highest obtainable honor I can give to the last prophet of these days, Prophet Noble Jawali. And I want to stop there, and I'm going to say giving honor to everything that was given honor to before me, giving honor to all of our Moorish leaders, all of our Moors. And I want to stop there to make a point, because the brother made a very good point. He said he took his shahada. And it made me smile, because I was thinking about this, because I was going to talk about this. See, oftentimes Moors aren't sure how to address questions that are placed to them concerning Islamic tradition. See, some of our brothers and sisters, and I've personally experienced this, will say, well, you're not a Muslim, man, because you never took a shahada. And I look at my nationality card, and on there it says that Allah is God and Muhammad is his prophet. That's what the shahada was about.
Right.
A shahada is simply a public declaration that there is but one God and that he has a prophet. We do that with our nationality card. We take a shahada, and guess what? Those who say they have, ask them where their proof is. We got proof. We got our nationality card. That's why the prophet said keep it on. So I give honor to our prophet, Noble Jawali, for these lessons, and giving honor to this forum and an opportunity to speak. I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated in 1974. So I've been on this journey for a little bit. I don't have any, I guess, Roman things that are tethering me anymore, because I have been retired from the federal government for 2 years. I gave Rome 35 years in the federal government. So now I'm trying to make sure all my time that I have, while doing Rome's bidding, I was still doing the prophet's bidding, but now I'm more freed up to do just the prophet bidding. So that's my background. I, again, am honored to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Praise Allah. So let me tell you, I'm excited again. As I said before we went live, you guys make this easy for a number of reasons. I'm happy that both of you are on. You two in particular are on this call for this particular topic. So, the subtitle of the topic is discussions on building and maintaining a spiritual community. You know what I mean? And so earlier you were talking, Brother Stuart Bay. I'd like you to jump right back into that about what, and both of you, I'd like both of you to speak to it. When members come in and new people come in and people interested come in, it seems the last thing they're thinking about is spirituality, right?
Well, I will say this. My experience has been,
yes,
most of the individuals that are attracted to more science and listen to, we'll say, the auditory lessons of the Prophet Noble Jawali,
yes,
they come in based on the foundation they were built upon. When I say they were built upon in this aspect, if they don't know anything about more science, they have to do what? They have to learn it from someone until Allah opens up the gates of consciousness and blesses you with your spiritual knit with him.
Right.
So most come in hearing the words of the national part of the movement. Because we lacked identity, one of the things we saw and we still see as a nation of people. It gave us a sense of pride because you hear things coming into the temple. It's reported, the prophet said, if you have race pride and love your race,
yes, sir.
We hear things about the lessons in the temple concerning the forerunner, Marcus Garvey, who his whole message was to instill national pride and entrepreneurship in our people. So we would have a sense of our own, not still being in a beggar state, because we know a beggar people can't produce the best in it. So when those messages are heard, sure, that's the attraction. The divine and the divinity of the movement comes about when someone has taken the lessons and has asked Allah for the gates of consciousness to open, because they see the spirituality of it and the importance of, if spirituality is not driving your quest for knowledge, you're going to learn about your nationality.
Right.
But the prophet said, not me, the clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. So if you don't have a spiritual knit with Allah and you're not gravitating towards the spiritual lessons that the prophet is bringing, that's not to say you won't be knowledgeable about the prophet. But I like it to the example of the intellectual versus intelligence. See, sometimes and when I say we, I always try to talk about myself. I can't talk about others.
Yes, sir.
I used to intellectualize the prophet's lessons because I'm coming from a sense of this is a national movement that I have to prepare myself to assist the prophet in the great missionary work of uplifting fallen humanity. But if I don't do it first from a spiritual sense, the work I put in on the national side, I'm building something that doesn't have a foundation that's firm.
See, but let me pause you for a second, Brother Stuart Bay, because once again, that's one of the issues with dealing with spiritual thinkers and spiritual people, is that you got to stop them because they end up going ahead of you. So let me pause you for a second, but you are going exactly where I was thinking. I promise you. Brother Webbe, what are your thoughts on that? When people come in, new people come in, what are they looking for? And, what are they looking for? And are they looking for spirituality? What's your experience?
Let me, before I answer that question, I'm about to be a bad guest. So before I answer that question, there was something else on my mind when the brother mentioned the whole thing about the Shahada. And what I'm about to say is not about to be a disagreement with Brother Stuart Bay. But I do want to say this ahead of time. If there's anything that I do say that seems as if it is in disagreement at all with Brother Stuart Bay, then it's probably my mistake. He knows better than I do.
Hey, you are, Brother Webbe, you are certain, as anyone is, entitled to your opinions and what you think. I'm only expressing mine. I can't say what I'm saying is law. I'm expressing what Allah has revealed to me.
Yeah. And look, the only reason I said that is because I'm probably going to say something that's going to get me in trouble, and I don't want nobody else to get in trouble but me. I want to say that ahead of time. But when I was thinking about the Shahada, and what the brother was saying about it, then I'm going to get to your question. I promise, brother Anayobe, is that the term Shahada, right, in the Islamic sense, what was typically talked about that is that when you sit in front of at least three people and you say the words La ilaha illallah Muhammadan, little bit more to it, but that's essentially what it is. But one of the things about that that's interesting, shahada, the term, the word comes also is related to a word, shahid, which is a witness.
Yes, sir. Yes,
A
sir.
witness. And the shahada is also called a kalima, which
Mm.
a word, right? So imagine this, because the Quran of Mecca also talks about the people. There were some people who just came to Islam; they just had to submit, versus those who, in their heart, actually believed the words that were coming out of their mouth. Now, I say that to
Mm.
imagine that if when you're giving a shahada, it's not merely lip service, you
Mm.
actually witness that there is no God but Allah.
That's right.
Witness that, which is you literally experience deep
That's
within your soul that there is nothing but Allah. That, if that is what it to be a Muslim, then I'm striving.
Praise the
Because
Lord.
most of the time when I've given a shahada, I'm doing lip service in
Mm.
many cases rather than the actual experiential thing, which is what the Prophet teaching was so beautiful in the sense that, and I was just talking with a brother about this, that knowledge in terms of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not merely philosophical.
Mm.
Knowledge, according to the teachings in the Moorish Science Temple of America, is primarily experiential. So much so that when when the brother gave the irony in this, when a brother in the Holy Quran and Moorish Science Temple of America gave the who was it? It was not Lamas, Barata Rabo gave the whole philosophical, which sounds very great, sounds so good that sometimes Moors quote him for a reality that is just something he was sort of pontificating, if I can use that word. But it's so much so that when he goes on his philosophical sort of idea about the of human being, and Jesus asked him, "How do you know that?"
Mm.
His response is what the priest told us. So that's what we know. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. And Jesus' response is, but you know that the only thing that you know, and I'm going to change the words just a little bit because I'm paraphrasing. The only thing that you know from what it is that someone else told you is the illusion of that said
How about that?
Mm.
all you know. Not you don't know anything. The only thing you know is the illusion. Really,
Mm.
also, the only thing you know is from their perspective.
That's right.
Only understand what they said from their perspective. Maybe they're right, but you don't know if they're right. The only way you know if they're right, if you are that. You must be what you know.
Mm.
You have to actually experience it.
That's right.
Which at a more profound level, in terms of the question that you're asking, yes, a lot of people do come in looking for the national side because the spiritual side is as it is as hard as it is as easy.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? So yeah,
Yes,
people
sir.
hear the national things, and oftentimes, and I'm about to jump a little bit, and forgive me. Oftentimes, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but they believe that the national side is separate from the spiritual side, and the two
Mm.
cannot be separated. They absolutely cannot be separated. But in their belief of the separation of the two, they believe that there's some sort of thing they're going to do in terms of the national side that's going to make them feel powerful, and for good reason at times, right? Like the brother Stuart Bay mentioned, you're talking about a people who have a sense of identity, but it is scattered. And so you have some
Mm.
people who refer to themselves as black, some as African American, some at one time we referred to ourselves as Negro and color, and
Mm.
all these different terminologies because of what happened to us as a people. And so I'm not blaming our people for that because the things that happened to us led us to this particular situation. Yet that is so then hearing I am a Moor, I'm a Moorish American, and this very specific thing, and then seeing the dress of the brothers and seeing what looks like, yeah, that's appealing. And then some are
Mm.
also thinking the national side means that I can get away with things and not have to do any laws and not have to obey any laws, and I can get out of paying child support, and I can get out of this ticket that I just got, and I don't have to have a driver's license. And so all these things are people are associating with the national side, which typically don't have anything to do with one another. And so typically in our space, a lot of those people don't stick around for us
Mm.
because we immediately go to the spiritual, and sometimes that makes people a little bit uncomfortable because they want to stick with what they think the national side is.
Uh, and if I could just to tag on what the brother is saying, see, because he's making the point of what we were discussing earlier. See, the phrase, and again, like I said, I may use a phrase tonight that it's reported the prophet said.
Right.
I don't know because I wasn't there. So I'm going on. I'm a little Barado Rabo in the aspect of someone is telling me something.
Yeah.
But if I can't find it in writing, but I trust the source, I have learned to say it's reported that the prophet said. See, it's reported that the prophet said, my sheep know the sound of my voice. A stranger will not follow. The key is sound. See, someone may listen to the lessons of the prophet Noble Deuteronomy, but they may not hear it. When you begin to hear the lessons of the prophet Noble Deuteronomy, it's because you have diligently done your studies and has asked Allah to open up the gates of consciousness, and that has been granted to you. Once that is done, then you're on your way. That's when my sheep know the sound of my voice. And a stranger will not follow, because you are no longer listening to the prophet's lessons. You are hearing them. Upon hearing them, because the prophet told us, you must have a what? A ear to hear.
Here.
Because those things go in proportion. Eye to see, ear to hear, and a heart to sympathize. So that's when we begin to hear the voice of the prophet. When we begin to have the spiritual lessons revealed to us, and we take them onto ourselves. For we know, hey, the prophet tells us all, not in possession of things. You and I, brother Sharif, we were talking, you know, I told you, I had the Quran 46 years. Allah just blessed me with a lesson I went over for 46 years the other day. So it's not with how long you've been in the movement. It's not how long you've had these lessons. It's how long has Allah been allowing you to get the true blessing of a understanding. You're going to have you ain't going to necessarily have the understanding.
Right.
See,
right.
it's the thing about when people say, well, this brother is smart, or this brother knows this. Oh, Mo, you know, I said, let me tell you what, I know about this much. I said, I'm being honest. Life is a struggle mode at times if you don't know. So I know about this much. But the this much I know, you can't take that away from me. As the brother said, experience.
Experiential.
What you experience. You can't take that away.
So my next point, right, and this is a big one, you know, and I deem it an absolute travesty that in 2020, amongst the so-called conscious of Asiatics, that spirituality, specifically through religious practice, is considered devoid or separate from manhood. In other words, it's like in the conscious community, literally, it's if you're religious, you're less than a man. If you're religious, you're ignorant and you're just a follower, and you have no initiative. You know, that somehow being religiously inclined and truly spiritually inclined, because we already know so-called spirituality without a path to it or religion is just a good idea, right? So, you know, there's this notion that to say you're religious makes you less of a man. What do you all think about that?
Well, if I could, before, and I'll let the brother answer, but I just want to jump in this one point. You made a statement, and you said, you know, thinking about those who, you know, are unconscious. And I hear that term, and I sort of cringe, because in the Quran, it says consciousness was supposed upon thee alone. Everyone, in my humble opinion, has a consciousness. You are born with it. The problem is your utilization of your consciousness and the asking for the consciousness, especially your spiritual consciousness, to be revealed to you. For this flesh bridles the will of man because it pulls on us. We know about the 12 jewel crown. We know love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and we know all the jewels. But the last 3 jewels are what? Food, clothing, and shelter. And that's what we focus on because that's what the flesh cries out for. So I just wanted to bring out that point. Everybody got conscience. They're just not using, they're not utilizing the consciousness that Allah has given them. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
You want me to go, brother?
Yes, sir.
When the brother asked this question, I was like, why are you asking me this question? And the reason I asked it is that I have a moving definition of manhood. And now that I have a son, my definition continues to move. And my son, I should have said this earlier. Most likely he'll end up in this room at some time or another, and I apologize ahead of time. Either that, or you'll hear drumming being played, and that's him. I promise. He's 3.
Hey Mo, praise Allah for His presence.
That's right. But there's this idea. I think one, there's a couple of things about that concept that are troubling to me. There's a troubling idea that vulnerability is not manhood. That being able to be in touch with who it is that you are is not manhood. And the reason I say I have a moving definition is because typically speaking, when I hear people articulate what they say manhood is, to me it just sounds like a brute. And I have no desire at all not to be in tune with my feelings. I have no desire to in any way imply that my maleness that my maleness does not mean that I'm not emotional. Those things are an important part of me, so much so that I'm watching as my son grows. I am more the disciplinarian in the house than my wife is. And I'm watching myself as my son grows because I'm typically the one that tells him to not cry about something. But I'm watching my words because I don't want my child to grow up thinking that crying shows a lack of maleness or manhood. He should cry. I don't want my child with that. I don't want my child holding everything in to the point where he blows up and he has no idea how to deal with his emotions because every man he sees tells him he's not supposed to have them. That for me is not it's not a sign of manhood. It's not a sign of sort of the enrichment of our humanity. And so the manhood that people sort of connect or compare with being sort of not adjacent to a spiritual path, I don't want that manhood. And so the manhood I understand is absolutely adjacent to a spiritual path. Matter of fact, the thing that is in me, one of the things that's in me that I'm studying is my higher self is referred to as the mother. And so part of my manhood is trying to make sure that I am in deep touch with my mother, with my self. That's part of my life. And I'm going to tell y'all something. I had the privilege to watch my son being born into this world. I've never seen strength like that. Y'all hear me? Now we typically define strength in a sort of upper body male sort of thing. That's the way. Listen, you ever seen a child being born? I've never. My wife, for she says I exaggerate. So 15 days, no, for 2 or 3 days, my wife was in labor. We weren't at the hospital. We were upstairs in our house. I saw my wife drink or eat because every time she did, she was vomiting. I saw my wife hardly sleep and then deliver an entire human being out of her body. I saw that. And I was holding her up under her shoulders and on my legs when the time was happening and she was in the water. I'm holding her up. And I kept thinking to myself, my legs might break. And then I looked at her and said, what you complaining about?
How about that?
I was like, if they break, they break.
They break.
Because what there's so that sort of strength, I've never seen it before until I saw what she exhibited. So for me, being a man in this family and the context of me being a husband is ensuring that I protect not just her physically, but every emotional sort of thing she has to deal with, anything that comes away, I have to ensure that I am a rock and that I protect it. At the same time, watching all the things that are coming at me and making sure that I don't turn into a rock and become emotionless and cannot engage with my family in a way that I give my full self to them. I don't be
Brother,
emotionless in
brother,
that way.
to that point, I want to jump in real quick before you start making all of us squirt tears. Yo, and it ain't even just a squirt tear thing. It's a squirt tear and want to slam dance. You know what I'm saying? Because that's real what you're saying. I'm telling you, brother. And you're right. It was purposely a loaded question. Because it presumes that those who say they're conscious even know what manhood is.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? To your point, brother Webbe, one of the hardest things, I'm a martial arts instructor, and one of the hardest things for me to teach, to get across to men and women, is that the idea, the European psychological idea of strength is one-sided and limited.
Right.
What we call the higher level skills involve suppleness and flexibility.
Come on.
They're called higher skills because they're hard for us to get. We have to first recondition ourselves to believe and understand that flexibility is a strength.
Yeah.
That suppleness is a strength. And and that relates to our teaching in the sense that, because you all know, our perspective in the Western world in philosophy, our perspective on spirituality is what they would call Neoplatonism. Meaning the ideal is more real than the manifestation.
That's right.
See what I'm saying? And so we know that the ideal is much more supple and much more ethereal than the manifestation.
And to what you
And that being said, in the martial arts, it takes a long time just for us to understand and accept that flexibility beats stiffness.
I was going to say, when you,
Yes, sir.
you were going to say one of the hardest things to teach, I thought you were going to say was the humility. Because oftentimes when we're put in a position where we're given information, where we can utilize power, I'm talking about the power of the body,
Right.
to do something, whether it is offensive or defensive, it brings out something in us that must be measured. See, one of the tools of anyone learning any type of power, and that's why when to get to the question you're asking, we must begin to explain and break down the physical and the spiritual, which we say operative and speculative,
right,
meaning of the tools of the workshop of the mind. For when one is put in a position when they are blessed with knowledge to be able to elevate their body to a certain level where they can do damage or can assist, see, because as you're saying, as you progress to the higher levels, it's not about physicality, because I know that first, second degree belt that you get is all medical. You learn just as much as a doctor learns about the body. See, so it's not about the physical aspect of it. The humbleness of it often is the toughest part for a person to learn. Because, we're taught, when you are taught any type of art, that whether it's boxing, martial art, or anything, you come from a premise of do not be the aggressor. But if aggressed upon, defend to the death. See, so, it's a situation where that humbleness, and we can look at it in more science. When I first got these lessons, man, I'm not black. I'm not a Negro. I got a nationality. I immediately latched onto the power when the brother was talking about the better than others philosophy. Oh, I thought, hey, I knew a little something. I thought that was better than others. Because now I knew I wasn't this and that. I had a sense of an identity. See, but it's the humbleness of the lessons that showed me the prophet know what Ali is not saying Moors are better.
That's right.
The prophet's saying we are different. We're not better. We're
That's right.
different.
That's
We're
right.
different because we are striving to live to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And in that, coming to your question, I have never, me, myself, come across someone, we'll say of the male persuasion, that said to me, or even indicated to me that they thought they were less than a man because they were religious. Because, see, remember now, I'm of a different generation. I'm a baby boomer. See what I'm saying? So that's not what the thought. But the thought may be that now because of the indoctrination of our youth, basing, as both of you have said, that strength is based on how hard can you blast somebody, see what I'm saying? Or how hard can you come at somebody? That's what strength, how much you can lift. That's what strength is identified with. But see, it's reported the prophet Noble Ali said, this movement is for strong young men and women. He wasn't talking about lifting no weight. He's talking about a certain strength of mind. That comes with being spiritually touched.
Right.
That comes with having a spiritual niche with Allah. That's the strength of being what we say man. Because there are two principles. And the prophet brought those principles to us, which are the keys to our understanding the lessons. He said, it is the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Know thyself and thy father God Allah.
That's right.
So if those principles are not what we're focusing on, and they're not being pumped, oh man, 24/7 in your ear. Because I often tell Moors, if it's reported the prophet said he was going to make Rome tell you the truth, it ain't going to be in a book.
That's a fact.
It's going to be in some form of entertainment. Movies, TVs, audio, listen to rap. That's where Rome's going to say, well, I told them the truth. I put it out there for, they just didn't comprehend.
That's right.
So it's the constant, I'll say, indoctrination of a thought pattern that is not life-giving. It's destructive because it's not based on truth. That our children are being pounded with. That they develop these, I'll say, insecurities about manhood.
Praise the Lord. That's right.
And see, if everybody remembers years ago when Ice Cube made Fridays, you remember the ending scene where he had a confrontation with Debo? What did the baby boomer tell the youngster with the gun down? This how man fight. See, it's a different mentality. It's a different mentality. See, it's a mentality now that youth coming up, they're not told to do anything with their hands, man, because they're taking what I like to say the lazy way out. A coward can pick up a gun and kill somebody. They take the lazy way out. They don't want to be a man. They don't want to accept the responsibilities of manhood, because if you do, then that means you are going to stand for something. You are going to stand for principles that will not allow your homeboys to sell dope in your neighborhood.
How about that?
See, you're going to stand for principles that won't allow your sisters to be disrespected, called B's and W's and all those kinds of things in your neighborhoods. See, until that mentality is there, it's going to be a tough road. See, because the youth, they look at this and think, man, this sound good. See, this sound good. And we are caught in a conundrum because, yes, we do, as spiritual people, naturally being Asiatic and Muslims, we respond to rhythmic sounds that move our soul. But the problem is, we're responding to the sound, but the words that are coming with it are not uplifting. See, our youth have fallen into what I call the color game. It is not about somebody's skin. They've fallen into the color game in this aspect. In all the world, there are but two things. The one is true, the other is falsehood. One is black, one is white, for lack of a better, example. But our children want to deal with gray. See, that's why I said they fall into the color game. They want to deal, well, what about all this? What about all, they want to experience and let the soul, because we know that, it's rash. And if unguarded, these are the things they will gravitate to. They won't recognize that the one is true, the other is falsehood. They will try to blend it and come up with a new color, which is gray, which I call giving yourself a naught credit with Allah. Allah do all these great things that are positive, but there's a little naught over here I'm going to do too. See, giving yourself a little naught credit. And so that's what I see as far as some of the problems, especially with our youth. They're indoctrinated with things. They don't hear uplifting things. When they hear something that attracts them, oftentimes it takes them down a road where, as the brother said, that machismo and that masculine thing is coming back up. And as to what the brother said about maybe shedding a tear.
Right.
Man, look, let me say something to you.
It's that whole, to your point, it's that whole, we've been conditioned to believe that manhood equates to imposing our will on others. You know what I'm saying? Instead of mastering ourselves. Imposing our will on others now becomes manhood. I punched in the mouth. I shot so. And the third. The glory and the shame is misplaced. It's backwards. Not a thing of, okay, apply my will to improve myself. And then through that, improve my surroundings so that I can, the principle of manhood in the sense of protecting and providing and sacrificing in the process to do so that everybody else can enjoy the benefits that they deserve. Brother Webbe, what were you about to say?
No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just listening.
Yeah, if I could, because both of you all are bringing up something that was taught to me by my father. See, my father was a great example of manhood to me. It plays a lot. He was allowed to live 100 years. But his example was family. My father emulated the Prophet through all these lessons, maybe not knowingly, for his attitude was the same as it reported the Prophet was. It's reported the Prophet said, I'm happiest when my Moors are happy. My father was happiest when he had all his family around him and they were doing well. See, so the point of manhood in developing principles of fatherhood we know are in the Moorish Holy Quran. It is our, not just job, but it is our duty, and that's what I wanted to talk about. See, we have a job. Those who have been blessed with these secret lessons. Remember the prophet said, these are secret lessons. We got a job. Our job is to take those secret lessons and do as is reported. The prophet said, take these now, save. They can save the nation. Take it to save yourself. Our job is to get back to Allah. That's our job. From the breakaway you come here in this manifest, your job is to get back to Allah. And that's why the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's lessons are so important, because they are a combination of all the lessons before him that he put together in a certain arrangement that can help us become perfected man. Now,
Yeah.
on the other end, those same lessons that we utilize, that we say are secret, we know they do no good if we don't apply.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to say, Sharif, to your question, what I don't want to do also is the same thing that I'm accusing others of doing. Meaning, my father, he recently was on the phone with my son and was like, "Don't be crying, boy." So he was pushing that hard. And this is the same father who said the same things to me and also kissed me before I went to bed at night. It's the same father who had a very what we would call a Western notion of manhood. A very right. A lot of the Western notion of manhood is what is it? Roy Rogers, or that sort of Western idea of a man that they created. Right. He had that notion. He also insisted every first day of school he walked me to the front door and held my hand. He also insisted that when I was in elementary school, that when they would have parents come to eat lunch, that he would come eat lunch and we would put out a blanket and we would eat specific foods that he did. So you see, I'm not suggesting at all that manhood is one thing. But I am suggesting that it is at times on a spectrum in terms of it, and that I am fine with all of those sort of exemplifications of that. And I'll say this now. I believe that Malcolm X was a man, and I also believe, this is going to be real radical, that James Baldwin was a man. And that both of them exemplified manhood in the way in which they knew how, and they were both wonderful examples of it.
That's deep, brother. And to your point, I want to throw this out real quick, right? Going back to that point, going back to what I said about martial arts training, right? And I was saying that a lot of the higher level skills are things that people would consider in the Western world more along the lines of feminine. In other words, flexibility, suppleness, these types of things, right? Here's what's interesting. It was just as hard to get this idea across to women than it is to men. Just as hard. You know what I'm saying? And that's amazing. See, because especially with the conscious community, it's like, oh, the divine feminine, that means woman. No, it doesn't. The divine masculine, that means man. No, it doesn't. It ain't that easy. I wish it was. It's not that easy. So that's kind of to your point, brother Webbe. I appreciate that. And now I want to, because man, see, this conversation is so crazy, it's so good, and we've eaten up a lot of time. I want to jump forward, right, and throw this out. I want brother Stuart Bay to lead this one off, right? I can safely state and presume that you all definitely understand the link between spirituality and manhood, how we see manhood, how it's essential. In the martial community or in military, the soldier, to be effective, has to see the mission more important than his flesh. He has to see the mission more important than his flesh. That's a spiritual pursuit. That's the only way he can even be effective. You know what I'm saying? So the teaching, man is not the body of the soul, to me is manhood teaching.
Come on, brother.
It's manhood teaching.
You
don't get that outside of religious knowledge. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and I would agree with you in this aspect as establishing a spiritual knit with God and constantly requesting it aloud, open up the spiritual gates of consciousness is essential. It's essential from birth. See, when we in the More Scientific American Incorporated ask the question, who are Adam and Eve? The answer is they are the mothers and fathers of the human family Asiatics and Muslims. So right away, the answer throws people in a frenzy. Because this particular culture that we live in teaches that Adam was one and Eve was one. Well, we know that's not it. How are two people going to populate the world? It don't work like that. It's a bunch of incest going on if that's what's going on. And I'm not saying, I don't think Allah wanted that to be. But what I'm saying is this, that spiritual Nick being an Asiatic and a Muslim. See, we know everybody that come to this plane, no matter what they resemble now, is Asiatic. Because Asiatic simply means what? Earthbound. Now, through sin of disobedience, some of our Asiatic brothers and sisters have lost certain things, melatonin, rhythm, and things of that nature. And they have made a distinction of manhood and mankind by saying they are not Asiatics, they're Europeans, because of where their culture comes from and where their teachings come from. But regardless of what they claim to be, they can't get around being a Muslim. See, because a Muslim, and we must be clear about this, we're talking about the transliteration, not the translation, the transliteration of the term is anyone who submits their will to God. It doesn't use the term Allah because the term Allah is already a given in the East. So they don't use the term Allah. Allah is used for God in Christian Bibles and in the Torah in the East. See, so it was never who submits their will to Allah, is who submits their will to God. That's a Muslim. Now, I tell my brothers and sisters that are practicing Christianity, and I said, you're Muslim. No, I said, don't be offended. I'm not trying to offend you. And neither am I trying to convert you, because everyone must come to Islam and Allah through their own will. I am trying to inform you that the very definition of a Muslim is what you're doing. You're submitting your will to God. You're just saying you're practicing Christianity. That's all. You're saying you're practicing something other than what you should be. Because that's why the prophet said we must return that to those that was what? Established by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. While he included all of us, while we are returning to what? To Islam. That was founded by our forefathers. See, the key in that sentence is one was established, one was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. For the prophet clearly states that we are what? A clean and pure nation. Now I hear Moors all the time, man, Mo, we're not clean and pure. I said, wait, hold up. How you know what a person's soul is? You looking into people's souls now? Because you see the reaction of a thought that may not be clean and pure. You don't know that person's soul. See, I wanted to start, and it got away from me, but I wanted to also say in the beginning, before we started the whole conversation, to remember everyone that is in the sound of our voice is a result of thoughts they accept. Everyone is a result of a thought you accepted.
Mm-hmm.
We just happen to accept what? The teachings of the prophet Noah Drew Ali. And you see the results of us what? Trying to strive to live the life. Some accept other thoughts, but whatever thought they accept, that's what you're going to see. Now, let's be clear. I didn't say every thought you come in your head, you're going to be. I said we are the result of the thoughts we accept. Sometimes we accept the lower thoughts. But the lessons of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, they're training us to be in touch with our higher self. As the brother said, the mother's virtues and the harmonies of life. See, because so, when it comes to whether there's a masculine or a feminine part of man, you and I had this conversation the other day, Brother Sharif. When you see the yin and the yang symbol, it ain't man and woman. It ain't truth and falsehood. It's simply a symbol to let you know what you must do in life. The vibration caught the rhythm. And when that happens, the will, the last action of the soul, makes possible the holy birth. And what? The resurrection is a fact. That's what that symbol represents. We for years have looked at it, yin and yang, good and evil, yesterday. It's when the vibration catches the rhythm. And this is what Jesus did when he resurrected.
Go ahead, Brother Woodbay.
Oh, what you said beforehand in terms of I don't remember exactly how you put it, in terms of in a sort of military sense, that to me was it. And when you said that, I thought to myself, it is finished. I don't have anything else to say in terms of that and manhood and spirituality, except for the fact that we're striving, and it's a sacrifice. And when you said it, I thought to myself the need to ensure that I have that sort of mentality more often. So I just appreciate you saying that.
Praise the Lord. The prophet said that our problems, the problems in a general sense are social and economic, but in a profound sense are moral and spiritual, right? And then he also said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. So just like, if I want to hit a target with my fist and I want to damage it, I punch to a point behind it. And as a result, I get everything in between. Right? How do we get this? You all as grand sheiks and heads of flocks, how do you all instill these ideals, especially in people who come into the movement and, like as both of you expressed initially, are seeing all the other things? They're seeing the, hey, I get identity. Hey, I get history. I get culture. I get all these other things. How do you all, or what techniques maybe you all have that you like to impart that you use to get them to look behind the veil to see the real power, which is spiritual, that powers these things? Go ahead.
If I can, I'll start off by saying this. I don't know what I did in this aspect, because I'm saying it's not what I do. It's with those sheiks and sheikesses, those divine ministers, those members that have been around for quite some time that know the protocol of the movement. They're the ones that, I'll say, set the tone. I will say this. When a new member is coming in and seeking the truth, and I tell them, you come into this because you're looking for something. The Moorish Science Temple of America is not the place to tell you what you shouldn't be doing. See, I try constantly tell Moors that when young members come in, man, stop telling them what they shouldn't be doing. See, in olden days, and that's the difference between, I'll say, Islamism, our religion, and how it's done in our Islam. And there's a distinct difference. See, your old time religion doesn't put to you what you necessarily shouldn't be doing. It examples to you how you should live and what you should be doing. And once you grab hold to those examples, you will tell yourself what you should not be doing. See, people come into the Moorish Science of America, but I always like it to, this is the hospital. I came in with a sickness. The prophet succinctly said it was what? The Negro problem. That's what I came in with. I came in with that sickness. And the lessons of the prophet Noble Drew Ali have allowed me to put that secret at bay. To say, well, man, that sickness, That ain't for me. So I tell Moors, stop trying to tell Moors what they should not be doing. Example, what they should, because in days of old, when the Prophet Muhammad Ibn Abdullah was on the scene, all this, you may not see my hands go all the way out, that was halal. This was haram. Now, this is haram, and this is halal because of man. See, and we must be careful of that. We cannot follow down that path of chastising people when they come in about, you can't do this. Man, people come in smoking. They may be dealing with a drug. We've had people come in the temple drunk. Now, we have certainly talked to them and said, this is not how we want you to come. Come back at another time. But we don't tell them don't never come again. Because why? They are coming to seek for salvation, which is one of the things we may not have the time to talk about, but one of the things you gave me a list of topics to look at is that that virtual temple versus a real temple. Because we're in a situation right now where we can't meet face to face because of a pandemic. But what our people don't realize is we're not only under a pandemic, we're suffering from an endemic.
That's right.
Because we have things that are globally that affect us a lot different than they affect others.
Right. That, brother, again, see that one of the benefits, one of the cool things about spiritual thinkers is that they could tune in, right? Because that was my next question. I saw Brother Webber. I don't know if that's tea you're drinking, but it was time we took that
shit. Let me give a plug. What I am drinking, I'm drinking what I call a super syrup. It is a combination of just bottled water. I put distilled vinegar in it, apple cider distilled vinegar. I put a packet of vitamin C, and for the special secret ingredients, 16 drops of the prophet oil. See, our oil, teas, and compounds, we must continue to push out there for our people because we know they help us. I sincerely believe, having come from a country where COVID-19 had just broken out in March 1st, I was in Athens, Greece, coming back to this country. I had to self-quarantine myself because when I came here, I didn't know what was going on because it hadn't been, it was where I was, but it wasn't pushed in. So I immediately started drinking my super syrup, dealing with the prophet's remedy. So I just wanted to get that plug in because they are what we need to help us get through this type of situation. But yeah, the virtual temple versus the real, hey, no, let me tell you something. We're doing what we have to do right now. But once this pandemic is over, we must stress to our people, there is a reason why we meet face to face and praise Allah together. It is reported that the Prophet Nabi Ali said, if you have to crawl to your meetings, do that. It's reported also that the Prophet Muhammad said, if you knew what awaited you in Jumu'ah, you would run. Well, in the Holy Quran and the Moor Science Temple of Mary Incorporated, we have the answer. It said, everyone who comes into any type of spiritual situation is always seeking salvation. In chapter 7, it said, salvation is a ladder that runs from the heart of men to Allah. That means we must come together collectively and give a collective praise to Allah to help the salvation. More sitting home talking about, man, I don't need to go to the temple. You're wrong. You're absolutely, well, the temple is within. Yes, it is, but you need to bring that within temple to the temple so those within temples can get together and send that collective praise to Allah.
That's another issue that that social media, since you bring social media up, social media can be a powerful tool. Shout out to former President, Barack Obama, who used social media
Mm.
in an incredible way to galvanize and to build momentum. But his methodology included, at the end of the day, people pushed away from laptops
Grassroots.
and they got out and met people. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
They got out and pulled. So that has to be the component. There has to be that part of it. What we have nowadays, sadly, of course, we all know, I'm preaching to the choir, is people believe that because of social media and because of social media and the flood of information that's available, they now take the movement to be an information buffet table. So that's why they say, I don't need no temple. I can get all the information I need, as if that's the objective of the movement. Go ahead, Webby. Go ahead, Brother Webby.
Just imagine me coming to you who's been practicing a particular form of martial arts and telling you how many books I read on it and that I knew more than you about it. Like, imagine that, right?
There you go.
It's no knock about of using this sort of media. So no, really, this is water, and I'm thirsty. That is not tea. It's none of that at all. But for real, we are currently having to figure out how I work in school, like what we're going to do moving forward in terms of online learning. And I wish we were a little bit more ahead of the game than we previously were. And so it's unfortunate that we're not. And so I wish, though, to the point, I do wish that we had been a little bit more savvy technological wise, so that when this stuff is coming up, that we could figure out exactly how to do these things. That's one thing. With that being said, the ultimate goal is to figure out how to get back with one another. Listen, this sort of thing I just mentioned, the thing about the sort of kung fu analogy. This is not limited to kung fu. Imagine me saying, "Well, I read this about 5 times, therefore I got it." And what I'm saying is that there is a practice that is necessary. The prophet named his organization the Moorish Science Temple of America. Emphasis in this case on science for me, just because science is the application of something. You have a hypothesis, maybe it'll work. I believe it'll work. Let me try it out. Figure out what happens. Oh, that's interesting. That was the response. And then you have to do it. And we're not doing science similar to our Western brothers and sisters science. We're doing science similar to Emoto's science in the East, where he understood that even when you try something numerous times, you have to try a bunch of times because the variables change. So when Dr. Emoto was doing his experiment on water, and he was putting what's his name, Usaru Emoto, and he was putting on different water, he was putting words that were positive words. Then he put negative words on some others and seeing how they would crystallize. And he was noticing that the things that were chanting positive things into, or they were putting positive words on, that those things were crystallizing symmetrically, and the other things were, and the negative things were doing it in an asymmetrical way. So he was noting how just via words and vibrations and how it was having an effect on the water. And Western scientists said, yeah, but that's not the way science works. And he said, I agree. And the reason he's like, because that's y'all science. Y'all don't understand that the water, every time I do it, has to change. Because the water is a living entity and it has its own mind. And when it's being observed, it might shift and change. And I took that into consideration when I was doing my particular scientific project. That being said, the same is true for us. So if I try the lesson 15 times and I get 15 answers the right way, the 16th time might actually make it different because the variables have changed. Things within me have changed. 40-some years the brother's been doing this. He talked about, I got a lesson when I read it that was different today than yesterday. The book didn't change. Well, what changed?
You changed.
Something changed. Something shifted to where now the result, the conclusion is different, even though you had hypotheses and all these different things beforehand. Now it's different. Now I say that to say that the importance of being in a physical community allows for the multiple things that spirituality is supposed to bring to take effect on the people who are in it. There are literally spaces, and we know this to be the true case. Let's take it out of the sort of flowery sort of space. We know as a people, you walk into a space sometimes, you like something feels off. And I'm not using an example to talk about things feeling off. I'm using that example to say you have a filler. What is that? How are you suddenly utilizing it? Why is it pick up? What's actually happening? So that same thing is it needs to be, we have that thing needs to be developed. And it has to only way it can be developed is via practice. And that has to develop in the appropriate way via just this experience that we're having now. I'm not knocking this experience. We're having to do this experience. We're having to do it. And I wish we were ahead of the game on doing it. I wish we were further along on doing it. But it does not take place of the necessity of having a experience with other human beings with one another. It doesn't take away from that.
If I could tag on, what the brother was talking about is what we teach. Right. We say that the lesson from Elihu and Salome to Mary and Elizabeth was what? Every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing.
Every living thing.
See, when the prophet tells us the birds sing out their song, but what? We vibrate in unison to do what? To help it sing. We have to be around physically each other. We feed off each other's aura. We learn from each other. We get energy from each other. That's why the prophet talks about being like the man who others observe. He may not be happy inside, but his projection shows happiness. This is why oftentimes I tell Moses, I said, when you are going through one of the most difficult things we can go through on this plane, which is losing a loved one, try, if you can, do your grieving in your own solitude. For in the public, those who are grieving look to you to see how it affects you. If you are holding to a standard of saying that what the prophet said, "'Tis not well the weak," don't mean you ain't gonna cry. The prophet was trying to tell us lessons to don't let grief consume you. So when you show that grief is not consuming you, others around you take notice of what? What we're talking about, the example you show. See, if you show an example, people gonna pick up on, how do we learn? The prophet said we come to this by what? Ceremonies and forms. We learn by observing others, especially when you don't know. Because as the brother brought up earlier, Arabo, he didn't do anything that was what we don't do in the hood. Because when we don't really know something, what we do? We make it up.
Listen.
When we don't really know what we do, we make it up.
Look, and Brother Stuart Bay, on an even more profound level, let's take it out the hood. We do it in the temple, right? Meaning we use the lessons and say, because it's written on page 55, we know. Matter of fact, even when we're reading the lesson of Jesus brought to Rabel, and Jesus tells him these things, we say, see what Jesus told him? He's right. It wasn't about what Jesus told him. It was about what Jesus showed him. Jesus was doing the same thing he did. So he literally, when Jesus tells him, let's forget the mind and go into the land of fleshless things, this is information. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this out loud on this. That's not informational text. Jesus was literally saying, let's forget it. Let's go to this thing. And I'll say this real quick. My son, this is going to get into some of the weirdness of my life. It would be fine if we had no windows and there was nothing, and I had to show my child what the sun looked like and what, see, he shows up, and what nature looks like. If I had to show him this, if I had to show him via the computer, good. But the moment that we get windows, the moment that we get doors, it is going to be incumbent upon me to take him outside.
Yes.
So he can experience nature.
Yes.
So much so, some of the weird things that we do now, when we go outside, the first thing we do when we walk outside is I say, son, speak to nature. Because there's one thing for me to know that within the Quran and Mursal to America, that you know that nature is a living being. But that's an ideal I have. I say, so nature's living. So now to solidify that idea with him even more, I say to it. Because you speak to living things when you're in its presence.
Mm.
So when we go out to nature, he goes into nature, and what do you say to nature when we go
Thank you for my pretzels.
Thank you for my pretzels. So he goes out and he says hi to nature. He speaks to nature. And the other day, we sticks from nature to play baseball, and I said, before you take that stick off that tree, you need to ask that tree if it's okay for you to take that stick off.
Well,
Okay, hold on.
We have 3 sticks.
We did have 3 sticks.
And then we have 11, and then we find it. 11 sticks, and then we found another one.
Yes. And so the point of this was he had to ensure, I had to make sure he understood. We don't just take from this living entity. We talk to it. And he'll say, nature said it was okay. And whether nature said it was okay or not for him, that's enough for me. Because now I'm like, you recognize that nature is a living entity. You recognize it, you're speaking to it, and when you take from it, you're asking permission. Because I don't want him to grow with the mentality that he is greater than nature. No, all living things are bound by course to every other living thing. We are connected. We talk about the birds and the bees and vibrating in unison. There's a connection. We are not superior to them, even though we are the Lord of them. Lord isn't dictator. That's not what that is. We are in connection with these things. And so I bring it up to say that, yes, it will be fine if I can show him nature. But the most important thing is for him to experience nature. And I can go deeper into the experience of nature, but that's for another show.
And if I can, right, what the brother is saying, actually, the prophet taught us, go to the desert, my son. Observe the youngster. The prophet taught us to observe nature because why? Man is the only thing on this plane that's acting contrary to its true nature. I often say now, if you're walking down the street, because when the brother brought out a very important point, because we're the Lord don't mean we were over. It means we were given the responsibility to make sure things were done right. That's why I say sometimes you're walking down the street and you come across a dog that's behind a fence and you're not doing anything and the dog's not aggressive, but the dog may simply bark, roof. And you keep walking, roof. Came to me one day, I said, you know what? That language that he's speaking just may be saying an alert to me, get yourself together. We are waiting on you. Because nothing can come back until you, the Lord, who's responsible for everything, gets yourself together. See, all these things, nature, we know it, earth, plant, beast, all those things were what? Given here so that man could function. He was given the lordship over it so that it would go correctly. But what happened? In our other shamelessness, we did what? We started striking down the beast. Then beast struck. See, we kicked it off. We started it. It didn't say the earth assumed the protoplasm first and said what? We struck down. We did what the prophet tells us in the Quran. We fell because we did what? We went awry. He said, what made us go awry? Cruelty. That's when we debased ourselves. That's why it says in our other chambers, we consume the beast and so forth and so. We started this whole demonstration off. And until we get ourselves together, can't nobody go back. Can't nobody go back until we get it together. That's why nature is there as a reminder to us. A dog is being a dog. A cat is being a cat. A tiger is being a tiger. But you run around here calling yourself a dog. You come around here calling yourself and acting other than what you are.
How about that?
And until we get ourselves together, can't nobody get back.
One last question. Somebody asked a question earlier. Actually, I want to ask 2, but one in particular. Somebody asked the question, is it necessary? Basically, the question was challenging whether there was a connection between nationality and spirituality. is it necessary to proclaim nationality to approach spirituality? Go.
I'll be quick.
Me too.
Maybe I won't be as quick as I thought I was. What I will say is this. One of the things that we did in the temple, so I'm going to answer the question, but not as direct as the brother or sister may want me to. One of the things we did in the temple is I would put different nationalities on the board, and we would talk about the different things of those nationalities, the different sort of cultural expressions of said nationalities. And then I would put what we are typically called cultural expressions, and we would go through all those particular things, right? And then I would put up Moorish, right? And Moorish American, and what those particular expressions were, and we would come up with those things. What we all would end up finding out is that the cultural expressions of a lot of people was embedded within their spiritual practices. Right, and so the answer to that question, in a simple sense, is yes. But I don't want to give the impression that if someone is not a Moorish American, that they're not spiritual. I don't want to give that impression. But what I would like to say, get out, big boy. What I would like to say is that I know that the Dagara people in West Africa are Dagara via their tribe. They're from Burkina Faso and South Ghana, but they're Dagara, and that their spiritual practices are also Dagara. They don't have a term for it. They don't have a term for religion and spiritual in the same way in which we've had to because of our circumstance. They understand that being Dagara means it comes along with particular spiritual principles and practices that go along with being the national identity. Those things come along with it. You just hit me in the nose. So those things come along with those things because that's what makes you Dagara. So what makes you a Moor, what makes you is studying your higher and your lower self, is having an understanding of your higher self and lower self. And that's what makes you a Moor, not this, all these other things. These things are the outward expressions of it. And we have particular ways we're supposed to express ourselves culturally via our nationality. But the aspects of our spiritual tradition is what makes our nationality in the first place. So the two are absolutely linked. They are not separate. They are literally the mundane and the spiritual coming together and doing this with one another.
And I think the brother answered succinctly. I do want to say this, that if we don't remember anything from our conversation here tonight, anybody watching or just the three of us, I have to give the proper respect to the brother who first coined this phrase. Brother Bradford Hill, passed, used to be the former assistant grand governor for D.C. He coined the phrase, the high science of Islam is simplicity. It is simply, because when the brother said be quick, I'll be quick. You must have a sense of spirituality before you truly understand your identity. I will never say what somebody can't do because I'm not allowed. But I'll say it'll be a struggle for you for this one reason. The prophet said it is a sin that our people are committing by clinging to the names of and principles of Negro, Black, colored, Ethiopian. If you constantly sinning, how are you going to grow spiritually? How are you going to grow spiritually if you constantly sinning? See, you come in, you trying to learn about your nationality, but yet we are still doing things that are what? Sinful. So we're having a grabbed hold to the true lesson. And one thing I wanted to talk about was grabbing hold of the true lesson of charity. See, we think for the untrained that charity is when you give somebody stuff. That's not charity. That's a charitable act. It's not charity giving someone something that they need. Charity is, as the prophet said, loving and not demanding love in return. Until we understand that is what charity is, yeah, we're going to have a little problem. Because we constantly thinking that, we think, I do something. Now, I can't speak about nobody but myself. How my thought was at one time, I do something good for someone, What am I naturally respecting? Something good's going to happen to me. The prophet said, that's a fallacy. He said, charity is loving and not demanding love in return. See, when the prophet talks about in the chapter, you're not defaming, you're not stealing someone's good name by lying about them. See, when the prophet talks about theft, you can steal a person's good name by lying about them. See, so we got to be careful about when we talk about we're doing charitable things and what charity truly is. Because the prophet Noble Drew Ali, in the same vein of the question you asked about spirituality and the national side of the movement, at one time, a theme was kicked around. It never really held on, but a theme was kicked around about the Moorish Temple of America Incorporated. It was for the prevention of sin and crime. Sin came first. Why? Because it's a thought. So if you don't have any type of spiritual foundation to support the things you're learning about who you truly are, how you gonna learn it right? That's all I have.
Praise the Lord. Right out of the questionnaire, it says, what is the everlasting gospel? It is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient father by his prophet. The Quran, Surah 49, verse 13. Surely we have made the old man from a single male and female into nations and tribes, that you may know one another and not despise the other. There it is. It's only novel as it relates to our people. We're the only people on the planet that are still walking around physically breathing and lost our collective memory, lost our ancestral memory.
Well, the prophet said he said succinctly, it was a problem. He said it's called the Negro problem. And he succinctly said it is your problem, not the world's problem, not Rome's problem. It is your problem. And it only can be solved through the lessons of the Moorish Temple of America Incorporated, because everybody's seeking peace. And the prophet says, but one way it can be obtained, and that's through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice being taught universally to all nations, to all lands. I don't know a lot of people in America doing it. I'm not saying no one else is doing it. I just don't know a lot of people that are doing it.
Yeah, more, I'll say quickly, in our question there, I believe it's question 14, how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. And so that also is a checkpoint for us to recognize that proclaiming your nationality does not give you a spiritual advantage necessarily. Because even
question 16.
16, thank you.
16.
Thank you so much. So even after the proclaim, there was an uplifting that needed to be done. How did they to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves, right? And so one of the things that we're doing within our study group is we small study group, literally going through each person, and we take 4 or 5 weeks figuring out, well, why are you here this time? What did you come here for? What's your purpose? Piercing through it and just grinding through it until the person has a statement where they say, here is as I understand it today, my purpose is da 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 da. And then every week we say, that's your statement, that's what you said. What are you doing to make sure that your purpose is enacted? And so we're clearly, as a community, leaning on each other to make sure that our soul, who did forget when we got here, no longer forgets. That's part of the work that we're doing to sort of make the spiritual practical. Here's my statement. Here are the action steps that I would take from it.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's powerful. And see, in Temple 78, there's a sign when you come in to sign in. It says, enter to learn, leave to serve. See, we must learn. As I said, we got a job to get back to Allah. But those who have proclaimed their nationality, we have an additional duty. Our duty is to assist the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the uplifting of fallen America and extending the learning and truth of the great prophet of Leah here in America. See, we got to do our job to get back to Allah, but while we're doing our job, we got to do our duty because we have been blessed with the secrets that have been released to us. And when those secrets are released to you, you have a responsibility.
Listen, everyone, we part but I kind of a treat to our audience. So our young man going to grace us with a drunk performance, I think.
Say Islam.
Is he?
I rise.
Praise to Allah, honors to my ancestors, and glory Islam.
Play.
Praise God. Hey, brother, man, don't let him lose that rhythm
Praise Allah.
because that's essential.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to have a conversation about that maybe offline, but that's essential to maintain that rhythm, brother.
Listen, we're gonna close out, brothers. I want to thank everyone for watching this one. This show broke a couple records in terms of live attendance and participation. This is beautiful. I'd like to have you brothers on again. You know, seriously, because we didn't even get through half the questions. You know, this is powerful. Thank you very much for you brothers and your attendance and your participation. Thank the audience. We're about to sign off. Thank you all for listening and joining with us. We will catch you next Wednesday. Peace.